Two backend engineers, same team, same code base, same experience level. However, in 6 months, one of the engineers is significantly better than the other. If they both had the same starting point, then what happened? I analyzed this exact scenario across dozens of teams. The difference isn't 100% the engineer's talent. It's how they approach backend engineering and 5 specific skills. The engineering gap is widening, so you want to learn these engineering skills right now, because most of the engineers are focusing on the wrong ones. With that, quick shout out to today's sponsor, Graphite. They showed me their PR stacking feature. It lets you keep coding and opening new PRs while previous ones are still in review. Super useful, and I'll demo it later in the video. With that, let's go ahead and dive into skill number 1, which is called the invisible skill everyone lost. Most engineers are getting worse at this skill. A company ran a 6-week pilot with 5 senior Node.js engineers. They're building out GraphQL APIs using a PostgreSQL database with AWS infrastructure. They gave their engineers GitHub Copilot and tracked everything. The result? 35% productivity gain on coding and 75% higher job satisfaction. Management was ready to roll Copilot out to the entire company. Then an engineering leader noticed something. Coding time, syntax, boilerplate code, implementation dropped by a lot, but architecture decisions, design decisions, understanding requirements, exactly the same. 0 reduction. Sometimes it actually increased slightly. Then they saw a pattern in junior developers who were relying on Copilot for everything. The junior engineers were shipping fast, really fast, but the code was solving the wrong problems. They were perfect technical solutions, but they misunderstood the requirements. One of those engineers spent 2 days building a Redis caching layer, but the caching data changed every few seconds. This was worse than useless. The architecture review that should have happened on day 1 got skipped because Copilot made it so easy. The lesson here is that AI generates thousands of lines of perfect code in seconds, but it can't tell you if those 1,000 lines are for the right business problem or if they can scale to your amount of users. This is on you. I mean, it can try, but these questions highly increase the risk of hallucination. The skill here is knowing what to build and how to architect it. That's literally half the battle, right? The other half is teaching AI how to build it your way. Now, the second skill is the bottleneck that decides whether your team moves fast or falls apart. There's a 40-person Series B startup drowning in code reviews. They are shipping fast, they have aggressive growth, but PR queues are starting to compound. The average pull request to approval is 18 hours. Seniors spending 25% of their time reviewing, which is 2 hours a day. But what this does is hold up the workflow of other developers. Let's say you have like 2 different tickets, but ticket 2 relies on ticket 1 being complete. But if it's just sitting in code review, then ticket 2 is hard to get to. Well, that is where Graphite comes into play, and here's how it works. And what we're going to be showing here is how you can use Graphite to create PR stacks. So if you create one PR, you don't have to wait for that one to be like approved and merged. You can just keep working on the next PR and tickets, and you're able to stack them on top of each other using Graphite. So what we can do here is I have over here 2 terminals, one for the application and one be using Graphite. And I already have Graphite installed on my machine. And over here in this main.py, we're going to be creating a simple fast API application. So if we go ahead and we just start doing a get status just to see what's happening, we have an empty main page and then a py cache. So nothing really happening yet. So the first thing I want to do is just add a simple fast API application, which is using an in-memory storage for users, where we're going to have a user object, a user response, and then just a couple endpoints to be able to fetch users and all that kind of stuff. So if we come over here and we just run our application, by doing a uvicorn main::app --reload. We go into our browser and we refresh. We can see that we have this read root, which just kind of shows us welcome to this user API. And we have these different endpoints. Now, if we wanted to be like, yes, that is what we needed for our PR. Like our first PR was just to create these endpoints. And then let's say our next PR or ticket was to create like a delete endpoint. So what we can do here is go into our terminal and start by just saying a get add all. If we go ahead and just say get status right now, we can see that our new file of main.py is integrated and we are good to go. And all of these files are ready to get committed and pushed. Now, you're probably familiar with like git checkout -b, which creates like a new branch, and then like git commit your message. but Graphite allows you to do this in one single command. So what we can say here is GT for Graphite, and we can just say create a new message. And what we're going to say here now is call this first PR. And then I'm going to press enter. Now, what it did was it created a new branch and automatically named it for us with today's date and the name. So 11/18 first PR, and it committed the message for us. So if we go ahead and type in get status right now, we'll see that there's nothing to commit because it already created the branch and it committed for us. Now, if we want to push this, we can just say GT submit. It's going to validate and make sure everything looks good, and then it's going to push it, and it automatically opened up a browser for us. And what we can see here is that we have like keep as a draft, a publish, and a couple of other pieces of information. But we can see our main trunk and then our first PR. If we click this first button, we can see that our first PR with Coding with Roby is happening right here. If we click it, it'll kind of give us more information on what's happening, and it's going to tell us about the PR that's happening. However, this is the exact situation that we might run into and why stacks are important. Because let's say after this, you want to work on the next step, which is going to involve creating a delete endpoint. Well, you might run into an issue right now because this PR is open. It has not yet been approved. It has not yet been merged. So Graphite allows you to build stacks, which is a new branch on top of the other branch as a stack. What we can do here is just go ahead and add this new delete endpoint. And now we've officially added the delete endpoint. If we wanted to go ahead and just kind of double check, I'm just going to rerun our application. Make sure that it now shows the delete endpoint, which it does. What we can do here is go ahead and do that same GT create again. So we can say GT create dash message, or we're going to name this second PR. It's going to say you have no stage changes, or we can say commit all files. And there we have it. We now have a second branch. What we can do now is just do a GT submit, just like we did before, but this time we want to say GT submit the entire stack. So now when it comes back into here, we can see that now it's 2 of 2. We have a stack submitted right now, which is a first PR and a second PR. If we come inside here, we can see that there's 2 drafts, 1 of 2 and 2 of 2, which is the first PR in the stack and the second PR in the stack. And if we open these up, we can see that there's going to be 2 PRs and they're stacked on top of each other. So let's go ahead and just publish and merge this first one. It's waiting to be merged. And then we can go ahead and merge the second one. It's now ready to be merged, and we can say merge. Now we have our entire stack merged back into our main branch. If we want to come back in here, we can just say GT delete. And what this will do is give us an option to delete our branches. We can say, yes, we want to delete that branch. And then we can say GT delete again and delete that other branch. And now if we check all of our active branches, we can see that we only have our main branch left, and we created a stack and was able to submit it using Graphite. All right, now let's go on back to the video. Now, the third skill is the quiet divide no one talks about. Now, let me tell you about a senior engineer. This was their 7th year at a major tech company. He was a lead that watched their 25-person Java team adapt to Copilot. Their tech stack was fairly simple. They were using Spring Boot microservices, AWS for infrastructure, and Kubernetes. First, everything looked great. The productivity went up, velocity went up, and management was thrilled. Then, 3 distinct tiers emerged from the developers. Tier 1, that was the junior developers that were using AI as a crutch for everything, copying and pasting without understanding. When AI couldn't solve a problem, they were stuck. The engineers never developed like real debugging skills, never learned to read stack traces, or just pasted whatever they got back into the LLM. Then there's tier 2, which is mid-levels using AI for boilerplate, but understanding fundamentals. They could debug when AI failed, knew when to trust it, and when to question it. And then lastly, there was tier 3. So there's 3 tiers. Tier 3 was senior engineers using AI to amplify expertise. They focused on architecture while AI handled the implementation. They had better prompts, better context, and better code reviews, and all of this was operating at a completely different level than the other 2 tiers. The company thought AI would level the field, juniors outputting like seniors. But what actually happened was some engineers were capturing more of the 25 to 35% productivity gains than the others. It was not evenly distributed. The metrics told the story. Like tier 1 was a 15% productivity gain, while tier 3 was a 35% productivity gain. The gap wasn't about who survives. It was about who's capturing the full productivity potential. Juniors developing learned helplessness, decreased willingness to engage with hard problems. This created a new pattern, which was engineers could code, but engineers could not engineer. So the team recreated a framework, kind of redesigned it for these 3 tiers, which changed entirely how the individuals onboarded onto their team. The developer was responsible for all output and could not blame AI at all. This made it so it was up to the developers to hold 100% accountability throughout the entire development process. This changed the game because there was no more pointing fingers at the AI. You're the human, you have to take responsibility. And that's a huge skill within itself. Now, the 4th skill is the reason your AI output is mediocre. A backend team at a SaaS company was drowning. They had a legacy Node.js API, 200 plus endpoints needing documentations, tests, and refactoring. And worst of all, they had 3 years of technical debt. An engineer tried a simple LLM. They did a basic approach to try and create tests. They wrote to the LLM to write unit tests for this function. Overall, the results were, disappointing. It was generic, it was low quality, had bugs, maybe 20% usable. So he improved his prompt and said, write unit tests for this function with edge cases for null handling, database transaction failures, and rate limiting. He had a little better structure and, clear requirements, and the LLM did a little bit better job. But the tests still weren't 100% validated. The tests had different assertion styles, had different file structures than what they're used to, missed domain-specific edge cases, maybe from 20 to 35% usable now. Which is slightly better, but still spending more time fixing AI and fixing the prompt than just writing the code himself. He was about to give up, then he realized better prompts helped AI understand what to do, but it didn't tell AI how to do it. And that's because he was missing context. He started building a context library with their coding standards, which had the TypeScript conventions, naming patterns, architecture decision records, an example of their best code, which included like error handling and patterns. He also uploaded his open API documentation template. Then he combined that context with the prompts, which made it a 2-part approach. For example, now for testing, his context fed the AI their config examples of good tests from their codebase, assertion styles, and guide. And then he added his in-depth prompt. For API documentation, his context was their open API template, 3 well-documented endpoints, authentication guide, plus another in-depth prompt. The progression of what the AI was able to deliver tells the story. The generic prompt delivered 20%, the updated prompt was about 35%, but the context plus the prompt delivered about 60 to 80%, which was immediately useful. This is the shift that we all need to know because prompts tell AI what to do. Context tells AI how you work. Most engineers only focus on prompts. That's why the output is generic. Real power is the combination. Context plus prompt equals AI output in your style. But not all engineers are adapting the same way. Which brings me to our 5th skill, the one area where AI sounds smart but is wrong. An experienced engineer ran an experiment. Can ChatGPT pass a system design interview? Classic design Twitter problem, which used to be a Google level interview. ChatGPT generated a complete design, PostgreSQL for the database, Redis for the caching layer, maybe Cassandra for the tweets, had microservices for the user service, tweet service, and timeline service. It also had trade-offs between fan out on write versus read. They then evaluated the response against real interview rubrics, which had a conclusion which probably passes an L4. Solid foundation, reasonable choices, but maybe not 100% senior engineer. Why? Well, it was technically correct, but again, it had generic answers, and AI assumed a lot. Senior engineers ask questions up front, tries to truly understand the entire business context. AI designs in a vacuum. Humans design for real-world context, business requirements, budgets, team capabilities, maybe existing infrastructure. AI is incredibly fast, but quite naive. Great for rapid prototyping, identifying standard failures, but you provide direction. You're the one that asks questions and makes the trade-offs. AI is great for planned work, but backend isn't always planned. Now, these skills aren't about survival. It's about becoming a top performer. The engineers that are capturing 25 to 35% productivity gains are the ones companies invest in. They're the ones that the companies want leading critical projects. They're the ones that everyone wants on their team. The gap is happening now. Some engineers are gaining, 15% productivity gains from AI, while others are maybe grabbing 25 to 35% and becoming indispensable. Which one are you building for? I'm curious to hear some of your best AI tips in the comments below. Thanks for watching.